Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Father Abba, we come to you today, Lord, asking you to help us with our understanding of your word. Please let us be able to gain practical information out of your word that we can now use in these troublous times. In your son's name we pray. Amen. And so be it. Hey y'all, we're looking at Revelations again. Revelations. And guess what we're looking at in Revelations? That's right, the beast. What is the beast? Who is the beast that we hear about in Revelations? Alright, so I'm going to start way down here. I want to show you guys exactly who the beast is. You may be surprised to find out who, some of you will be surprised to find out who the beast is or who the beasts are. But the thing is, the purpose of this, guys, is because many of us are worshiping the beast in our ignorance, and we really need to cut that out. So hopefully out of this, what you'll gain is who the beast is, and then you'll start to prevent yourself from worshiping the beast if you ever have worshiped the beast before. And many of us have. You know what worship kind of means praise and honor, and so when we start to bestow praise on a thing or say how good something is, we're actually in a way we're actually worshiping that thing. So it can be really easy to worship the beast if we don't know exactly who the beast is. So let's come in here and let's find out who the beast is. We're going to touch on some verses out of Revelations, but of course, in order to understand Revelations, you have to go back into the book of Daniel. So we're going to jump back there as well. All right, let's look up here, verse 2. He says, "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority." Now, this is our first clues as to who the beast is in Revelations. It doesn't go as far as to tell you, especially in this verse here, it doesn't really go as far as to tell you who the beast is. But when you start to look at how it's describing it here, he's like a leopard, and he has feet like a bear and a mouth like a lion. We can kind of get some hints, but like I said, we're going to have to jump back over there in Daniel to find out exactly who these beasts are. Let's look at verse 3. He says, "And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast." Okay, now there's a lot of debate. There's a lot of people trying to figure out about this deadly head wound. There's some individuals who believe that this deadly head wound has taken place in the past. There's others that are waiting for the deadly wound on the beast today. So I'm not going to touch on that too much. Let's go on to verse 4. He says, "And they worshiped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with the beast?" All right, now this is what we was talking about earlier when I said that there's a lot of people who are worshiping the beast, because look at what it takes. Look at what they're doing when it says right here, "And they worship the beast," and then it says they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with the beast?" So that is a way of worshiping this beast. All right, so we're gonna come back to that. We're gonna come back to that in a minute after we find out who and what these beasts are. We're gonna come back to that. All right, so let's go over to the book of Daniel right now and find out who the beasts are. All right, now we're over here in the book of Daniel. We're looking in chapter 7, where Daniel is getting a vision of these four beasts that are going to rise up throughout human history. And again, I remind you guys, you can't understand the book of Revelations without understanding Daniel. You have to read Daniel, or get a good understanding of what Daniel is talking about in order to have an idea of what's going on over there in Revelations. And that's where a lot of interpretation come in, is people try to interpret what Revelations is saying without getting the information from other places in the Bible first. Let's look over here in chapter 7. We see that Daniel is starting to get information about these four beasts. First, verse 3 says, "And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another." Okay, and then the first beast was like a lion. Remember, we heard that before. And it goes on to give details. And there are other books, particularly Esdras. The second book of Esdras gives a lot more detail about these beast systems. But in Daniel, he's telling you about the four and what they are and what they do. The second beast was like a bear. And you remember over there, so this whole beast right here that Daniel was hearing about is like a bear. That other one up there was like a lion. But remember in Revelations it was saying that he had like the teeth of or something and the feet of another. Without jumping back over there and looking at it, he was saying that, you know, the final beast had these different components of this beast you hear here. Here's another beast. It was like a leopard. And then you have this fourth beast down here, which was dreadful and terrible. All right, but let's go on. All right, now here's the answer right here to what the beasts are in chapter 7 and 17. He says, "The great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise after the earth." And so this is what the beast systems are. Without going into a whole lot of detail, matter of fact, let me show you guys a picture right quick. Right, now what you're looking at is a time chart history of the world. Talked about this book in several of their classes. You can find this book on Google. That's where I found it. This picture of this book, I actually have the hardcover, but this is just a picture of the whole book laid out. If you search for, I believe if you search for these words, you'll be able to find it. But when we zoom down in on this thing, we can see the beast as it progresses. Again, you have to get in Daniel, and I don't plan on, going through everything that it says here. But here's Nebuchadnezzar right here. This is when Daniel got the dream, and Nebuchadnezzar was the first beast that Daniel heard about. There would have been previous other beasts, but Daniel wasn't really showed anything in the past. He was showed the present. There's your first beast right there, is Nebuchadnezzar. And that was Babylon, Great Babylon. And then the second beast was the Medo-Persians. They actually came in and conquered during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, and that became the second beast system there. And starting with, I think, Cyrus. Let me zoom in a little bit more. And then after this reign, this Medo-Persian reign, you had Alexander in this area here. He kind of takes over in this area here and changes it to the third beast system. But when you start to follow this third beast system, it goes into this fourth beast over in this area over here, which is the fourth and the final beast. And if you can follow it as it goes into this area, let me zoom out a little bit more so you can see why it talks about how this beast is so dreadful and so powerful. Is because this beast pretty much takes over the entire world. This is so many people have gone into this beast system by now that it's taken up. This is one beast system that is taking over pretty much the whole world. Now, if you get into the details of how it played out, you find out that the beast, there's some trouble that goes on with the beast, and the beast suffers a deadly head wound. Like I said before, some people say this happened in the past, but he suffers a deadly head wound, and then it sparses out. Okay, now this is Rome over here. This big fourth beast system is Rome, and then there's some trouble down here that kind of splits the kingdom up. But if you look in this area, you can find the 10 toes to where it's spread out. Even in today, it is still following these 10 toes or 10 nations. All right, so these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. And again, there's your answer as to who the beasts are. We're going to give a little bit more detail. Don't go nowhere yet. All right, and he goes on to tell Daniel about the fourth beast, which is the fourth beast is the beast system that we're under now. Without keeping you guys into too much suspense, the beast systems are our government systems. Is what it boils down to, is those that are governing the world. We don't call them kings anymore, or they may not even be kings anymore. I think to be a king, you have to be a dictator or something like that. But we're moving into the new world order system, where we're getting away from the kings and we're getting more into a parliamentary system, but they're still governing the world, and this government leadership is still expanding as people make alliances and all of that kind of stuff. And down here in 7 and 23, it's talking about how the fourth beast will be more diverse from every other beast system on the world. And if you follow the story on how that beast was created, I'm gonna stop saying beast. I'm gonna go ahead and say that governmental system was created. It's kind of a conglomerate of all of the other major powers in the world. And I'm sorry I didn't brush up on those so I can speak to them a little bit better. But you have stuff like the economic systems into it, the way they run the military is a part of it, the educational system makes up an element of it, the way the government runs in a parliamentary system makes a part of it. And that's what Revelations is talking about when he says that they have different components of the beast. Is it is a different, it's not like a lion, but it has a different element of the lion, and you just have to know what that element is and understand what that element is. All right, now so jumping back over here, when you think about how we say that, and I know some people get highly offended when you say they're worshiping the beast, but when you think of the beast being our government systems or our world rulers, and you say they worship the beast, saying who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with the beast, this puts me in the mind of our current president and the situations that he is going through. We've just now getting out of an impeachment trial where they tried to get him out of office, and then even look back at the Mueller report and some of the other stuff that our President Donald Trump has been doing. It starts to put you in mind as just what it says right here. Who is able to make war with him? Who is able to do anything against him? Maybe we ain't at that point where we're talking about war, but I think the whole world is talking about how he's able to do anything that he wants. It says, who is like this president, who we've never really seen anybody in the world do this. He's even have more power than even a lot of the dictators that we are familiar with. And there's a lot of people in the world who are basically worshiping him and getting behind him, and basically talking about how invincible he is. We all know that he's not invincible. There is a rock that's coming to destroy these beast systems, and he's going to find out just how invincible he is not. But the world is, what does it say right here? And they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying who is like the beast and who is able to make war with the beast. So there's a lot of this going on, and this is why we say that there's a lot of people who are worshiping the beast, because they are basically speaking in this manner towards our current president, Donald Trump. Now, if you notice on my channel, I don't speak, any ill about our president. One, there's a commandment that tells us that we're not supposed to speak ill of our president. Let me jump down to that right quick. This is coming out of the book of Exodus chapter 22, which is the covenant that we're under. It's the rules that we basically have to go by if we want favor from the Father in these end times. And one of the rules we find out here in verse 28 of chapter 22 is, thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of their people, or curse the ruler of thy people. So you won't hear me saying anything bad about Santa Claus, and you won't hear me saying anything bad about Donald Trump. I just kind of just give you the facts and let you decide how you feel about them on your own. But let's come on back up here to Revelations. Okay, so we may not revile our government leaders, but we don't worship them either. Now let's jump on and look at a few more verses. All right, now this right here is an important part up here in verse 14. Verse 9 in chapter 14, he says, and a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in their forehead or in their hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angel and in the presence of the Lamb. And so this is why, it's important for us to understand who the beast is and what it means to worship the beast, is because if we find ourselves worshiping the beast or his image, then we can expect this kind of torture or torment that's coming on to the world. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it. You remember that the tribulation that we're going into, the end result of this tribulation is that people are going to put forth faith in the Father. Whereas now there's a lot of people with faith in our governmental systems, which includes our money and currency and all of the other stuff that we're getting from the government, like Social Security checks and the FDA and the Board of Education and our judicial systems and our court systems and police and military is basically giving us, or seems to be giving us, all of the food, clothing, shelter, protections, and everything that we need in life. Well, the Father intended for all of that to come from him. He never intended for us to put our faith in these beast systems in order to get that stuff. And as an end result, the beast system is going to be destroyed, and then the men that do survive at that point are going to be putting their faith back where it's supposed to be, and that's back into the Father. So we're talking about here those who worship the beast, meaning they're giving their support, their praise, their honor unto these government systems. Well, they're going to have to be taught a lesson so that they don't never want a king ever again. And so it says right here, you can see how some of this stuff is going to play out, where it says, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angel. So this is right here. It's going to teach people not to worship the beast anymore. After that, you ain't going to have to worry about them worshiping the more beast anymore. All right, now down here in chapter 15, let me start up here with verse 1. He says, and I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 legs plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of God. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God. And they went on to sing a new song. We're talking about the 144,000. These are people who are the front runners, who are now separating themselves from the beast systems. You don't see them guys running around trying to get food stamps or trying to get governmental jobs or jobs at all, for that matter. They're separating themselves from the monetary systems and finding ways to put their faith in the Father, finding ways to allow the Father to become their king, getting away from the beast king systems. Well, after when these last plagues start to show up here, the way this is written here, when these last plagues start to show up, it is those people who had gotten the victory over the beast, meaning they had learned how to live without the beast. They learned how to live without the governmental systems. And so they are the ones who's going to be standing there. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button. If you didn't, you disagree, go ahead and hit the dislike button. But leave a comment either way, and pray for us. Hello.